AppAsap is a platform that helps you build your apps. It currently doesn't build the front end and it only builds the back end. And regarding the back end, it doesn't build custom endpoints or integrations, but it builds you a lot of cool features like CRUD APIs, image and file storage, an admin dashboard, a full API with authentication and authorization, the whole spectrum. So the journey starts by you telling AppAsap which app you're trying to build. In this demo, we're going to tell it that we need a social media app. So now that it's done its analysis and it's happy with the requirements, if we have extra requirements, we can add them. Otherwise, we can just create the app. It takes about 10 minutes to build the app, so I'm gonna pause until it finishes and then we can see what it built. Now that it's done, we can see that it created a project called Social Media App. We can start investigating it and seeing what it built. First, it asks for a root password for security. Now it shows us what it had built. So it gave us the requirements, a database visualizer to see the database that it built, an admin content management system to add data to our database, and an API playground to integrate it to any front-end app that we're trying to create. So here, this is what it understood from our conversation, that it's a social media app to facilitate interactions between users, connect the friends to extend their networks, and so on. And it has the main features, which are user interaction with posts, like creating a new post, liking a post, commenting on a post, sharing a post, and it gives us the scenarios for each one of those. Following users, private groups, events, direct messaging. So that's what it understood that needs to be there. Now let's take a look at the database. So now this is our database. This is, for the technical people, an entity relation diagram, which is fancy for that every block is a database table and every line inside the block is a database column. And these lines are relations between tables. So if the user has a post, you will find a relation or an arrow between them. So here it created this database. Let's take a look at it. So it's social media, right? So it created a user, and the user has a name, email, password. He creates posts, follows people, has direct messages, attends events, shares posts, has a profile picture, creates comments. That's everything that they do as a user. Created something called a group, which has a name, description, and the users that are in the group, as well as the group photo. It also stores the information for roles and permissions because we have a very robust authorization system. So this is just for users and groups. Now users also make posts, and the posts could have media, could have comments, and of course have the content and could have shares. So if a user is shared, we store which user shared which post. Also, these are the comments, which post, which user created the comment, what's the content, and what's the media. So it seems like it has understood the assignment and created pretty much what we need. Now the database visualizer allows us to modify anything that we need. So if there's a table that we need to add that's not here, we can just press on add node, and that creates a totally new table for us that we can modify. So let's start by giving it a name. Maybe we want to add something called interests for each user. And we need the interests to have, first of all, a category. So that's a list of predefined values or an enum. Let's call it category. And let's give it some enum values. What types are in this list? So let's say art, science, sports. So these are the interests. And a text field for what the interest is, maybe interest name, maybe a picture for the interest. So we could also add a file. That's the picture. We could make the name unique because we don't want overlapping interests, and it has to be also required. And we want the users to have interests, so we need to put it here and drag from the user to create a relation to interests. So now users have interests. If we are happy with that change, we can press apply changes. And it's going to regenerate the app with the updated database. So let's wait until it does it and then look at the admin CMS. So now that it has finished, you can go to the admin CMS and start exploring. So this is basically where we can see all the data that's in the database and manage it. So here it shows me the users. This is just my user that it created automatically for me. I could create new users, however I want. I could decide which columns I need to see and which columns I don't dynamically. I could export the data as Excel sheet, or I could import data as Excel sheet. So here, this is everything that it created. We can see all the posts, but of course there's none yet, so we could create a new post. Let's give it some content, my post, and choose the user. It automatically links this to the users that already exist. So this is my user. And we could also add a media file. Let's add a media file to the post. And just like that, that's a post in our database. Now let's add a comment to the post. Of course, this would be done on the user app, but you could also do it on the admin. So this is my comment. Which post is it? It's the post number 1. It also automatically links it. And who's the user that's doing it? That's me. And I'm not going to add media this time. So now we created a comment. Same goes to sharing, who's sharing which post. If you want to create a new group, you can create it. If you're trying to create a new event, you can also create it. It knows that the event has to have a date, so it gives you a date time. It has to have a type. Is it private or public? And this is the interests that we just created. So we create a new interest. We can choose from the categories that we put on the other side. We could create a name, profile picture, and we could give it to a certain user as that's the interest of the user. So that's, to put it brief, the admin panel. You could also sort based on any column, and you could search for anything that you need just to manage your content, basically. Now let's go to the API playground to see how we can make this come to life, how we can have a front-end application that really talks to this database. So first off, it gives me the authorization token, because everything here is secure. If I want to use this in my front-end application, that's integrating with the API. So each one of those is an API endpoint, meaning that I can talk to it, send it data to the server, and get data from the server. So if I want to register an account, I can talk to this endpoint. I can try it out right from here, or I can try it from my front-end application. So if I want to create a user for this user, I can execute it, and it sends this data to our server, registers the user, and brings us back the response. And if I want to try it from anywhere in the world, I could use this URL This is my server, and that's the endpoint that's called register. Register takes an email, name, and password and returns the user that it created. So I could call this from any application in the world that I am building to talk to the backend that we just created. And just like that for everything. So for each entity, like comments, posts, interests, anything that we created in the database, we can do all sorts of stuff. We can ask the server to give us all the comments. We can ask it to create a comment. We can ask it to get a comment by ID, to edit a comment, to delete a comment. We can ask the server to do anything from anywhere in the world, and we could try it out from here in Swagger. So if I want to get all comments, for instance, I can sort the comments by post, by user, by anything that I need, by the time they were created at. I can decide the sort order. I could do a date filter. I could do pagination. So if I have a lot of comments and I think that the server will have hard time returning all of these comments, you could just return the first three, the second two, whichever page I want to get from all of the comments. I could also select different columns from the response. So if I'm trying to get a post and I'm only interested in the post title, I can just select title, and that will only return the post title. If I want to get the comments of the post, I can just select the comments, and it will only return the comments of that post. If I want to select anything to just see that piece of information, I can get it. There's also filtering options. If I don't want all the comments to return, I just want the comments that have a certain keyword, which might be hate speech, for instance. If I'm trying to filter it out, I can just query that and then execute, and it will return all the comments from the server. And the response looks exactly like it's in the admin CMS and the database visualizer. I could also create. I could do this here through this user-friendly UI, or I could do it in a JSON object if I want to copy this to paste it in my code in the front-end application. So that's AppAsap in general. If you want to learn more about the features, about the usage, you could always go here, go to the documentation, and learn more. It has almost everything that you might require using AppAsap. Thank you for your time.